Hi guys, just checking I'm in the right position. I think that's okay. So, welcome. What is it now? Friday, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, Sunday the 3rd of May. So, oh yeah, that's it. It's my first, hi Metty, it's my first live of May. Whether that means anything or nothing, it just suddenly popped into my head and I thought, oh, interesting, first live in May. But hey, there's a first time for everything, as they say. Yeah, did my live on Wednesday. I've been reading and looking into some more of Brené Brown's work, in particular around connecting courage and shame and vulnerability and so on. That's been quite important. There's also been quite a lot of things that I've been looking at around, I think some of the stuff I'd shared before about the compassionate focused sort of trauma, and looking at how that links to courage. So I know I've been doing some work there as well. And interestingly, I was looking at Brené Brown's, hi Granville, I was looking at Brené Brown's website and looking at some other resources that were on there. And right at the top of her page, it says this, and I'm just going to read it out loud. Owning our story and loving ourselves, thing that we will ever do. I'm going to read that out again. Owning our story and loving ourselves through the process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. And I just thought, yeah, that's a big part, I think, of what I've been doing and what I've been sharing over the last couple of weeks, really. Owning, certainly part of my story, what I'm about, where I come from, sharing some snippets of my sort of life story, life history, but also learning to love yourself. And actually, there may have been times in all of our lives where you may not necessarily considered whether you really loved yourself or not. Maybe at times you didn't necessarily. So this piece around loving ourselves in that process and that being a brave thing to do, I think is really, really important. Now, one of the ways of learning to love ourselves through that process is about showing ourselves compassion. Hi Chris, yeah, totally agree. A lot of the times we don't always love ourselves that much or feel that we love ourselves in that way. But I think by developing more compassion for ourselves, we can learn to do that. And I think by learning to love ourselves and be more compassionate with ourselves, that is, if you like, one of the steps towards actually being more courageous in really stepping forward and saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, this is what I want, these are decisions that I feel are important for me to make, these are the conversations, hi Nadia, these are the conversations that I need to have today, and these are the brave conversations that I need to be honest about. And I think the only way you can really do that is by making sure that you're in a really good place in yourself and an important place. Now, with the trauma-based compassion-focused therapy book that I've been looking at, it had some exercises in there, some of which I know a lot of you will already be aware of and you'll already probably know and practice yourself. One was around mindfulness, and this was very much about breathing in, just noticing your breathing, letting the thoughts come and go, so not focusing too much on them at all. And when you notice them, it's just about noticing, not being hard on yourself, not getting annoyed about it, just bringing yourself back, hi John, bringing yourself back to your breathing and continuing to be present, to be grounded, and just letting the thoughts come and go. A lot of you will probably be aware of that sort of mindfulness. Now, it then talked about another exercise which was about creating a safe space for yourself. And so I really sort of, breathed that through, thought about the visualisation, what that meant for me. It also talked about creating smells, adding senses to it. I know. And so what I did was I visualised and imagined that my safe space was actually a place I remember when I was younger, and it was, and I'm smiling as I'm about to say it was actually under the kitchen table in the kitchen, and what we'd do is we'd put cardboard boxes under there, and we'd have lots of mum's towels and tea towels, all sorts of towels, you name it, different shapes, different sizes, but we used them as a way of creating a day. So I visualised this safe space of being under the table, creating this den-like feel with the tea towels and the cardboard. And then I recall there being like smell of things like bread and scones, and there was something about the smell that felt really good. And then also I remember this element of creating like a little tea party. So I just visualised, imagining, making the little cups and the drinks and so forth. And so that felt like quite a safe space. And then another creative visualisation that it talked about was imagining a place of compassion and courage. And it also asked you to add your own qualities to it. So this was an interesting one, because this was where I was in this really quiet space and I was breathing in and out, just noticing my breathing, and I began to think of and imagine qualities like wisdom, strength, kindness, courage, responsibility. And what I began to do was to just very, very slowly and consciously think about, as I breathe those things in, where I felt they actually were physically positioned in my body. And I'm looking down because I made a couple of notes about this. So wisdom, I noticed I felt it was coming from my eyes and from my heart. My strength, I visualised it being in what I call my torso, so the whole front part, hi Richard, of my body, and also my feet. Those were the key pieces about strength. Then I began to visualise and breathe through this place of kindness, and I noticed that when I was holding on to it being in my heart, I actually automatically put my hand on my heart so I could physically feel it. And then what else I noticed was that kindness was in my fingertips. I remember feeling them and moving them. There was a lightness to touch. And then I remember breathing through and thinking about responsibility. And I felt that through my back. And actually, as I was sitting down at the time, visualising this, I remember breathing it through, breathing it in and out. And I actually almost physically began to, hi Christina, move my body up, so that I became, if you like, much taller. I felt my stance changing. And then the other thing that I noticed as I was doing this was I naturally brought, and I'm doing this, I'm speaking to you actually, I brought my two arms and my hands out almost like a giving gesture, and I brought them out side to side, and it felt like that was more of an equal measure. There was something about responsibility being of an equal measure. So that's what I was thinking then. And then with the courage, it was interesting because I noticed it was very firmly planted in my feet. But there was something about that not it being important, it didn't stay physically still. So it stayed still for a while, and then I moved my feet and I imagined that they were moving, literally walking. And then the other place I imagined that courage was coming from for me was as I was breathing this through, it was very much around my stomach. And so what I noticed was this whole embodying, that's the word I'm going to use, this physically breathing through, thinking about the qualities that was all related to compassion and courage. I breathed them in, I breathed them through. I could really get a sense of where they were physically placed in the body. And it really was embodying a real sense of strength and groundedness and quite a calm place as well. And then, towards the end of that, what I actually pictured and could literally see was I felt like there was a sense of the image of a lighthouse came to mind. And I imagined this light coming both from my eyes and from my arms. That was the sense of light that I was sort of offering. And I sort of just sat with that for a while, and then that was pretty much, you know, the close of my sort of mindfulness sort of time. And I think I only did it for about literally, you know, sort of 10 or 15 minutes. But it was this piece about getting yourself to this quiet place, and it didn't have to take that long, and just imagining things coming and going, and then really embodying the qualities and the sense of physical presence, and imagining where that was in the body. It felt very, very affirming, very positive, very sort of strong. And so when it comes to steps around developing compassion and courage, that's something that I actually felt, you know, I would encourage other people to do. If you don't already, if you've never done anything like that, it doesn't take a lot. Just a bit of quiet space, just concentrate on your breathing, let the thoughts come and go. Don't hold on to it too heavily. Don't get annoyed with yourself if it doesn't work first time. Take yourself to imagine what is a safe space for you, and what you can picture, what you can sense, what you can see, maybe even sounds there. And then begin to visually breathe in what are the qualities you imagine to be connected to compassion and courage in this sense, and begin to just really embody that. Now, what I'm going to do through the week is I'm actually going to develop that a bit for myself, and imagine perhaps what other qualities are connected and created to that. But that's the first piece, about keeping ourselves in a real kind, compassionate place, so that we are more present and calm and firm in who we are and what we're about as an individual, so that we can actually make better informed choices and decisions, and have better, clearer conversations, and feel that, you know, we can step into a space where we may need to be a bit more honest about that. Now, the second piece I've been looking at this week is to explore some of Brené Brown's work again that she'd sort of posted. And in fact, I'd posted one of her pieces on my Facebook, which was about not knowing. A really interesting piece. And in fact, it's actually, the title itself is called The Courage to Not Know. And I'm going to read a little bit of this out, guys, at the moment. So the title is The Courage to Not Know, and it says, "It's not fear that gets in the way of daring leadership. It's armour. When things get tough, do we lean into vulnerability and get curious, or do we self-protect in ways that move us away from our values?" And I think that's another piece, and I've talked about that previously on other lives as well, and I might do a bit more around that, that actually, if we're not in tune with our values and our presence and what's important to us, we tend to go into this place of getting quite, I need to know, I've got to know, or it can be quite a self-protective, almost fearful place, although it might not appear like that to begin with. And goes on to talk about having to be the knower, or always being right, which is another phrase for always having to know, is what she calls heavy armour. It's defensiveness, it's posturing, and it drives a lot of thought processes which actually may not be good or right for you and for other people. And it goes on to say it's very common, most of us have some degree of knower in us, knower as in to know to be right, you know, to want to have the answers actually for other people. And then it goes on to say, unfortunately, needing to know everything is pretty miserable, both for the knowers and for everyone around them. It can lead to distrust, bad decisions, and sometimes unproductive conflict. And it says it sounds pretty easy to replace the armour of knowing with becoming a curious learner. But for many people, the need to be a knower is driven by shame, and for some even trauma. And I've been talking a lot about shame and trauma and how that connects to things that can hold you back and keep you small. And so I can understand that sense of, you know, build up some armour, that if you are feeling you need to protect yourself at some point in your life, whenever that is, that sense of being able to know and being right actually feels like it gives you a little bit of, you know, sort of confidence, a little bit of yeah, I'm okay. I can sort of, you know, fight the world, I can protect myself, I can protect other people. But it says being the knower can save people in hard situations. As we know by now, there's always a purpose for these things initially. And it's easy to buy into the belief that being a knower is the only value we may bring to personal and work relationships. But then it goes on to say, knowing can also become a culture problem, both at home and at work, when only some people are valued as the knowers. So others may not speak up because they don't see it as their place, or they're not senior enough, or they're put in their place by others. And so that can actually create quite a difficult, challenging place for people as well. Now, with some of her work, the three of the pieces that she's talked about is naming the issue. So it can be a tough conversation, but she talks about being clear, is being kind. So naming it very clearly as it is, not beating around the bush, not, pretending it's something it's not. And also, to do that, she talks about not only naming it, but then asking the right questions. And to ask the right sort of questions leads to making learning curious. So making it okay to ask questions without feeling the need to know everything, and not assuming others will know either. And then the third piece is acknowledging and rewarding great questions and instances of, I don't know, but I'd like to find out. Now, what struck me was a couple of pieces. I was thinking about a large part of most of our, upbringing, apart from, whatever upbringing we have within our family sort of society, is school. And we might have different types of education and learning, but I think in the mainstream, most of the knowing and the learning and the knowledge is very much based still upon getting things right. And I think certainly within a learning and education environment, getting it right is often the piece that's rewarded. And I think that it can almost prevent or close down people from wanting to have a go, wanting to say what they might think, but they don't because they're fearful they might get it, and put inverted commas, wrong. And so if they're going to get it wrong, then they don't want to look stupid. They might think they're going to, and then this can happen for some people, they might be sort of put down or negated in some way, or be made to feel smaller than, or they might have an experience of people laughing at them. And I think this environment of learning, whether that be, for whatever age, for any of us, needs to be really focused upon encouragement and curiosity. And actually, there's almost a piece, certainly within some of the courses I do, even with adults, is, do you know what? It's okay for it to not be right. Do you know what I mean? You can actually sort of get it wrong. You can also create rules at times which are, well, unless you're going to sort of hurt yourself or other people, or it's going to be, extreme health and safety. It's like there are times where you can say, well, actually nobody gets to be wrong. That you can explore, you can get curious, you can enjoy learning for what it is. And if somebody answers a question and it isn't necessarily the one you're looking for, then it's okay to turn around and say to people, actually, no, that might not be quite what we're looking for, but you know what, great, having a go. And also what it does is it enables other people to feel it's giving them permission to have a go, for it to be okay. It doesn't matter if they actually aren't quite spot on and get it wrong, so to speak, because guess what, at the end of the day, in that type of environment, there's no absolute consequence to that other than just staying playful and curious and exploring. So I just sort of felt in that sense there was some importance around, just creating a space of it being okay, and you can share and you can ask questions and you can have a go. And, if you don't get it spot on, so what? There's that sense of. Now, the other thing I was thinking about is with this piece about the knowing and the not knowing, I don't. Some of you may be aware that my business name is called No Limits, and it's actually No Limits as in KNOW. But then there is the focus with the different coloured letters on the NO in no. And I've always loved the idea of, I love working with paradox. So there's something in that which is there are no limits, but actually at the same time you need to know your limits. And there is, again, something quite paradoxical about that. And I was thinking about how the idea of learning and knowledge for me growing up was a massive part of me feeling that was going to enable me, that was going to give me something, whatever that was going to give me a step up or a step on. I was encouraged to sort of educate myself, so that somehow it almost felt, I don't know if this was unspoken or not, but it had this feel of Mandy's going to be the one that's somehow going to do okay, where that's just a sense of, whereas other people may not have, but Mandy will be the one that will do that. That there was something unspoken about that. So over time, and I don't quite really know or understand at the moment all the nuances of it, but I definitely began to feel and develop this sense of I need to know, I need to be able to have knowledge and learning to apply that and to be able to enable and empower others, which is great and important. But sometimes that sense of the needing to know can almost tip into and I have to get it right. And when you start to move into this place of it's got to be right and I've got to get that right, then if somebody else asks a question about that or questions it or thinks, well, that doesn't quite look right or feel right, and they may just be naturally curious, it can actually put you back in a place of defensiveness. So I recognise that I think that piece about the getting it right, needing to have it right, I think, somewhere along the line, I may have also created this piece around trying to protect myself, having that little armour of it sort of helping me somehow, becoming a little bit of a shield against an attack, whatever that looks like. And it sort of covers up you trying to not feel hurt and vulnerable. But at the same time, if you're not careful, it can also just make other people think, oh, well, that person just thinks that whatever they've got to say is right anyway, so whatever I say doesn't really matter. So it can sort of put people off that way. Or, interestingly, you have to be really careful. You can set yourself to what I call fail. And what I mean by that is you can become the knower. So the person that everybody looks to the answers for, because you sort of come to know that you are the person who has all those answers. And you don't always have all those answers, and that can put a lot of pressure on for yourself, and it comes from other people, because you've set it up in a way. They think that's what you're there for, that's what you represent. So it's interesting. I think talking about that aspect, in some respects, it takes more courage, certainly to at times turn around if you genuinely don't know something. You don't feel you really do have an answer. I think it can take more courage to turn around and say, I don't know. And that sounds really simple, I don't know. But actually, that can put yourself, or it can feel like you're putting yourself in a bit of a vulnerable position, or I don't know equals, it's because I'm thick or I'm stupid, and all those things, where in actual fact it's not. It can actually mean, and I think this is an added piece, I don't know. However, we can learn and find that out together, which then becomes a collaborative learning, which is really effective. Or, I don't know, but I'll find out for you, which is equally okay as well. But not to go, yeah, I know X, Y, and Z, and then almost, that making something up, and you're fumbling through the dark, and you're trying to make out that you know something, when in fact, really inside, you're thinking, I don't really know that anyway. And if we're coming from what I would say is certainly within not only coaching, I actually think within some therapeutic models and theories, I think in essence a lot of people still work to and believe that a lot of people know deep down what they really want. I think deep down they might be scared to share that and say that, but I think most of us know fundamentally what we really need to do and what we want to say, but there's lots of things, you know, that can stop us or get in the way of that. So I think that notion of everybody has the ability to be creative, to be resourceful, to know themselves better than anybody else in this world, even if they don't think they do, because they do, because they're in their own body, their own shoes, they've lived their own life. You know, nobody else other than that unique individual has done that for themselves. And actually, we are all absolutely, you know, our USP. We're unique and individual because we are the only ones that have lived exactly our experience in this way. So therefore, why would we think, you know, somebody else has an answer or a template to that, when we need to also be part of trying to find that out for ourselves as well. So that brought some thoughts around there. So hopefully lots of probably raised. I'm sitting there thinking, do you know what, my sharing there, you know, might have raised even more thoughts or question marks for some people, which is great. It might have raised a few insights, reflections, ponderings for other people, which is equally perfectly fine. It's all good in the big picture of. So I've got a couple of poems. Both of them are my own poems I've written, so I'm going to share those with you. The first one, it's called "What's It About?" So I'm just going to compose myself, so to speak, just get a bit comfortable. So it's called "What's It About?" I am tired of being false. I want to be truthful. What's the question that needs to be asked? I can claim my success. I can claim my wins. It can be tiring. It can be chaotic. It can be challenging. And what else? Exciting, moving, touching, exhilarating, rewarding, freeing, insightful, connecting to ourselves, connecting to others, connecting with others, others enabling me to share, others enabling me to express, others triggering a response in me, responses of anger, irritation, annoyance, resistance. What's that about? What's it all about? It's always about me. The way I respond, the story I've made up, the baggage and judgments I bring with me, the expectations that shape my reactions, the experiences that shape my reactions. But what's it really about? What about the others? They help and shed light on things. They illuminate the way. They make me think about things differently. They help me to step outside of myself. Well, maybe it's about us. Us being able to show a mirror up to each other. Us being able to reflect in each other's eyes. Us being able to make connections. Us being able to share in a given moment. Is that what it's about? What's it about? So that was my first poem. My second poem is a little bit shorter, and it's called Meeting. So I'm just going to pause. So meeting. Endings blowing in the wind. Bending without breaking. Transitioning. Can I hold on to what I have gained? Will I allow myself to hear the noise but not allow it to affect me? To listen to my own voice, to affirm my own worth, to accept I am good enough. I am okay whether you are or not. I've not known you for long, and yet I feel I've known you all my life. And now I have met you, I will always know you. You will always be part of me, even if we never meet again. Those are my two poems. And, as always, those of you who've joined me before, I have a song to share with you all, which I'm just getting up on my laptop, which is why I'm looking to the side and down. I don't have to explain that, but I did. So, just give us a minute, guys. I think you might recognise this one. Sing along if you do. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart, give thanks and praise to the Lord and I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Let them all pass, all their dirty remarks. There is one question I'd really love to ask. Is there a place for the hopeless sinners who has hurt all mankind just to save his own? One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart, give thanks to the Lord and I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon. So when the men come, there will be no doom. Have pity on those whose chances grow thinner, and no hiding place from the Father of creation. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart, let's give thanks to the Lord and I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Give thanks and praise to the Lord and I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Hi Lorraine. So, guys, to come towards the end of my live, always feels like it goes in a flash for me. Don't know about for anybody else. I just want to say thank you for those who joined me at the beginning, in the middle, towards the end. The great thing about this is, if you want to watch it again, you can. If you came in the middle or the end, then they're obviously live on video anyway, so you can re-look back on Facebook and any of the other lives that I've played as well. I hope that it's given some food for thought, some reflection. It's made you think about how you connect with some of the things I shared. If you do have any further reflections or thoughts on those things, I'd really love to hear them. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already done so, if you want to put some comments on the the live, I'll absolutely always, in fact what I normally do anyway is I watch it back, and I see what people have shared, and I'll answer and reply. I always do that in my live, so don't think, oh, you know, if I put a comment it won't matter, because it really does matter. And I just want to say to you all that joining me and, you know, taking this 35 whatever minutes out of your time, you know, from the beginning, I really don't take it for granted. I find it really humbling. It means a lot to me, and yeah, I just feel like I want to sort of give something and connect and share some of my experience, some of my learnings in life, for want of a better term, and I really hope that it just inspires some people and maybe gives people a little bit of hope coming through the next couple of days in the next week. I will be doing another midweek live, which I've been doing a few times now, Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So lots of love, lots of hugs, lots of sparkle, lots of warmth, and yeah, really, really wish you lots of good stuff, guys. Keep safe and keep speaking to me, and I'll speak back. Lots of love. Hi, Jake. So speak to you soon, guys. Lots of hugs, and I shall speak to you, if not before, on Wednesday. Take care. Bye.